And welcome back to Survivor Hot Takes. It is me, Coach Drew, with less than my normal voice. And we're joined with Emily, as always.
Hello.
And welcoming back Ross from our David versus Goliath deep dive recap retrospective from, I want to say, 2-3 months ago now.
Yep.
So it's been a while, as Stained might say. So, Ross, welcome back. What is your season 42 hot take as of now?
Well, I think my hot take is going to be in relation to you, and that's I don't think Rocksroy is playing anywhere nearly as bad as you have seemed to be.
Wow. Okay. Well, okay. So, as I said last week, no matter how good or bad Rocksroy is doing, I do think Rocksroy is going to be around for many weeks, and I do think that he going into this episode. I guess we can just go right into it. I'm not. I don't shit on Rocksroy. Rocksroy he's fine.
You love him.
I don't love him.
Yes, you do. Yes,
no,
you do.
I don't love him.
Andrew, yes, you do. You told us last time. You did. You said he's going to be in your. Yeah, you said he's going to be in the top 3. It had us.
I love him. I just mean
that means that you love him for the show.
Okay. I think that he did the right thing when they got back from camp this episode and not blowing up on people. I think that him apologizing to Tori, whether he meant it or not, and clearly he didn't mean it based off of his confessional, I think that goes a long way because a lot of times people will come back to camp and freak out on the other person, like we saw Sarah and Tony in Winners of War and other times. And that really drops them down social-wise. So I do think that he has some perception of how he's supposed to act in that situation. And, you know, I'm not fearful for him now because I think, like I said, once they hit merge, people are going to forget that he exists, that are out there. I think no one's going to forget that he exists watching, but out there, people are going to forget that Rocksroy exists, and somehow he could maneuver his way to getting into like a 5 or a 4 or a 3. But I don't think that he's a shit player.
You love him, and I think you do. But like, I think that you're right, Ross. Obviously, I think that he had a little bit of a rough go about at the start, just in terms of social awareness. But I think that, you know, to his credit, like Andrew just said, you know, even just how he managed the fallout after the last tribal council was really incredible. But I also think that even in Shipwreck Island, is that what they call it? Shipwheel Island, whatever. I don't know. There's too many names. I'm gonna forget them all. But like we talked about, like how he was kind of cagey with Lydia. You know, why do you look confused?
I was just going through my head of what it was called.
I think it's Shipwheel Island. I don't know. So if someone else knows, can you just put it in the comments? Because I need to know these things. But whenever Lydia asked him the question, like, are you guys tight? You know, kind of trying to get a little bit of information. He flipped the question and he's like, well, what is tight really? Which a lot of people thought was so funny. But I actually thought it was really brilliant because he found the summit. Kim, I'm in love with you. And even him being able to say well, what is tight, being able to kind of flip it and put the blame on the game instead of being able to give any information and make it really relatable. I thought that was a brilliant move. Super, super smart. And also his name's still Ross.
Yeah, I really think he might be in the best position because he's only Tori. They keep him around, so he can't be that bad. They can't dislike him that much. He's only lost Tori's vote, and there's no reason to get rid of him. He's doing amazing.
I agree. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I keep talking. But I think that the only counter that I might have to that is that Tori has now openly said his name as her biggest target. So if she were to flip to a different tribe and was able to get enough people to join her to help get rid of people on Ica, then that would be the only time that he would be probably in the worst possible position.
But even then, Tori, as much as I'm not a Tori fan, Tori does seem savvy enough to realize that once the merge happens, why would you target Rocksroy first? That would be silly on her end. If she's going to flip, she wants to flip and get out. She wants to flip and get out the people that are actually, being perceived as leading the tribe. So
Drea.
Or Drea, yeah.
Right.
I feel like if she were to flip, she would probably have to flip to Taku and get out because Taku's going to be the tribe that everyone goes after at the merge. So the easiest thing to do would be to flip with Jonathan, who you just put a target on a couple episodes ago, and go after people from your side, because you already said you want to flip period on all of them, which cool. What I'm hoping happens is she tries to flip with Taku people, especially Jonathan, go, no, didn't you just sit here and say this? Let's get you out. And then they go to Romeo and everyone else, Rockstar, and say, hey, what's up with your girl? And they're like, oh no, she can go. And she can get sent before the jury, because I'm really just done. I'm done with the Tori.
Yeah. Ross, how do you think that Tori is going to make it really long? Because we've heard like completely polarizing opinions on this. Like some people are like, she's toast. And a lot of people are also saying that she's going to make it all the way to the end. What do you think?
I think she's going to go mid-merge. I think she's going to be like Candace in Heroes versus Villains, where she just lasts longer than you ever think she should, but she does. And she's just there. And then eventually they're like, oh crap, Candace is still here.
Right.
Yeah,
she's going to get that flip. Yeah, she's going to have the Candace flip, the patented Candace flip from at least her first 2 seasons, where I remember watching Heroes vs. Villains for the first time. I know this is like a weird tangent, but I remember watching Heroes vs. Villains, and when Candace flips, I was just like, yep, of course she does. Of course she does. And I'm so glad she wasn't around long enough in Blood vs. Water for it to happen again.
I will never know how she made it on the hero side. Like, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that in itself.
She had the heart to abandon her tribe of minority. That's fine. That's not why she did. That's not why she did. That's not why she did. That's how rumors get started. So we get back from that tribal. Rocksroy's in a rough spot. Tori's rolling her eyes, making all of her stupid faces, and says that she's going to flip when they merge. Then we get to Mike Turner's tribe, and Mike is annoyed / upset that they haven't merged, which means this perception of merge is clouding everyone in the game. I think it's clouding a lot of judgments that we see happen in this episode, specifically when they go to the summit. Both of them protecting their votes. I think that if this was earlier in the game, they might have gotten ballsy and tried to do something else. But because the merge is coming, or because everyone thinks the merge is coming, everyone's trying to be all hands on deck. Everyone's trying to make sure that everything is safe, so that when the merge chicanery begins, that they are as protected as possible. So thoughts right now on we already know it's going to be a fake merge, but on the potential merge, do you think that they are going to edit it in a different way than they did it last season, or do you think we're going to end with a cliffhanger of will they or won't they break the hourglass? Ross,
I hope the 2 hours we get both episodes. I hope it's just a commercial break. I think that I hope we don't have to wait a week. I hope it's just a commercial break. They realize there's no suspense. It's not even a decision.
This like reminds me of Twilight. Hear me out. Like in I think was it Eclipse? Whenever at the very end of the movie, whenever Edward told Bella, like, will you marry me? And then that's whenever the movie ended. Like, of course she's gonna like that's what the whole freaking show's about. Like, I don't know why that reminds me so much of the Hourglass of Time. It's like, of course we already know what the ending is gonna be, you know? They don't like have someone run through a fiery building and they're like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen next movie. You know what I mean? I don't know.
You actually had me early in that one where I'm like, oh, how is she going to compare this to Twilight?
It's just like Twilight. Everything relates to Twilight if you believe hard enough.
Yeah, I think that what they'll do is they'll end the first hour with whoever getting the hourglass. They'll break it at the end of the first hour, and then the next hour is them getting to the challenge and saying, hey, this is a stupid twist that we're getting rid of in 43. This is how we're going to do it. And then they go to tribal and someone's going to go home. Yeah. I would be shocked if they decided to do a 2-hour episode with nothing happening at the end. And I think that would definitely suck the air out of the season if they did go that route. Because this season, in my opinion, has been very good so far, especially compared to 41. And I think that something like that happening could be kind of a bad omen if they decide to go the route of ending the episode on an hourglass type twist.
I hope to God that I know that we've talked about this. We've been trying to build up to this at least from the start of the season. If this hourglass is or is not going to return, and I'm praying that our Lord and Savior Danny McCray from 41 like put in like the Lord's work by giving that much pushback to Jeff and to like the rest of the Survivor production. I think that if anything, we're at least going to see a tweak. I don't think that it's going to be the exact same thing. I hope to God not. I think that it's going to be something else with some sort of twist, but I don't know.
I don't know what else you could do with it. Like, I don't know what else the penalty could be for hitting the
I feel like if I were God and if I were in charge, I would do something along the lines of like, they divide into tribes and there's one person left, and then they do kind of the same setting, but then like they get a different sort of advantage of like, give one person like who's one person that you will protect and they can't know until or give one person some sort of advantage, but it can't be yourself. Like they created so many new advantages, like this, even the amulet advantage, like that in itself changed the trajectory of 42, at least with like building these different relationships and functions. And I'm like, I just think that they could do some other sort of advantage in the merge. I just hope I hope they do. I'm probably wrong, but I'm too much of an optimist to admit that I'm going to be wrong.
I'd love to see how they shoehorn in the go back in time with that, but
they have to. No, it's going to happen. Just believe me. You have to believe me.
So from there, we get to our final tribe, where an idol is finally found. Well, no, is that how it happened? I don't remember the exact series of events, but the final idol is finally found. And we get to the challenge where all of the phrases, all the cringy phrases that I have to turn my head from whenever they're on TV, just because I can't. I met Xander about a month and a half ago, and as I'm shaking his hand, all that went through my head is like, wow, you would never realize how many times I had to turn my head while you were on screen. Not because of anything other than you were forced to say the stupid phrase over and over and over again. So we get there, all the idols are activated, and Mike with the most awkward ever since Nasir did it in season 41 with the most awkward saying of the phrase, but he got it out, and it's all, everything's ready to go. The only thing that we haven't talked about on this season in a long time are the amulets. I think that they've done a really good job of just keeping them under the radar. The amulets are going under the radar right now, and I think that when they eventually pop up, it's going to be big time. I think that the fact that all three people are going to be making the merge, hopefully, I think that adds to, that's when we're going to start talking about those amulets again.
Absolutely.
And I'm interested to see how they play out because I do like the concept of them. I just hope that it actually works. Ross, what are your opinions on the amulets?
I honestly, I think Lindsay's screwed because of that, actually. That's my prediction, is I think Drea is going to immediately go after the other two. I think I get that vibe from her, and I think it makes more sense to go after orange than green. So I think other people would be like, we're not going after Jonathan, we're going to go after Lindsay.
But
and I wanted to talk about that in a little bit, but Emily, go.
But I want you to be wrong. That's how I feel. I do think that I think you're right. I think that I think that Taku, Lindsay is probably in one of the worst positions right now because Taku is definitely the big tribe that is the big target. They have put a target on themselves by Jonathan, speaking out like, we're so tight. And then also Tori being like, yeah, bro, we know that you guys are tight because you're also jacked, that there's a huge target on them. And so I think that what's probably going to happen is like Avati, Ika sort of blend. And then they would want to get rid of at least one of their numbers. I think it would probably be Lindsay with maybe Jonathan as like a decoy situation. But I also think that Marianne's in a really bad situation too. Like, I mean, she's on the outs, like at least looks like she's on the outs right now with Taku, and she has an immunity idol that everyone knows that she has with the exception of maybe Rox, Roy, and Tori, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone knows she has it. And then on top of that, she also has that extra vote. So I think that in itself also puts a huge target on her back. You know what I mean?
Well, and Emily, you also brought up on the last pod that we did the 4-4-4-3 dynamic going into the merge. You can go ahead and explain it. But
no, if you want to, I don't want to be a bother. I'll keep talking. I guess. Okay. Oh, don't have to tell me twice. All right, y'all, buckle up. This is what I'm the most obsessed about with this season. I'm truly swooning. So, the coolest thing that's ever happened in the world is this season has four, it's 4 4 4. So every single tribe has four. But not only is that cool because there's no numbers advantage, so it's not obvious, right? It's also the fact that there are 3 3 3 people who are close knit unities, or units, I guess, and with one person on the outs. The even cooler part of this is that there's basically a leader in every single tribe. We talked about this in our last podcast. Like Romeo is probably more of like the leader, the person who's like calling the final shots. Jonathan, Hai, and then Jonathan, right? But they have like a second unit that they work with in each one of these tribes, right? So Hai has Lydia, Jonathan has Omar, and Hai has Lydia.
Romeo had Drea. Yeah.
Romeo had Drea. I'm sorry, y'all. There's so many names. But like it is really, really cool because everyone's equal, but also not, kind of in their own ways, just based on the advantages. It's going to be Advantage Gate 2022. I am living for it. It's going to be wild.
As long as someone actually gets voted out, yeah, I'll be cool with it. If Advantage Gate happens again and then, like, no one gets any votes, like, that's, yeah. But if someone,
there's got to be one. I'm sorry, there has to be one. I already put all my votes on my fantasy league. If they don't get rid of at least one person, I will sue.
So Ross, what are your opinions on on a lot of these advantages that's been introduced in 41 and 42, but primarily this season?
I think the Beware advantage, I like the phrases this season better. I think they're less awkward. I think Mike messed it up more than anyone possibly could have, but I think in general it's easier to talk about soccer than broccoli and being trees and dead relatives. But I'm not sold on the amulet advantage yet. We got to see how it plays out. And then it's weird how Shot in the Dark all of a sudden is like the thing, but like that's got to be coming to play at some point, and it would be really cool if that happened at the merge. But like, I think people are going to stop using it for a little bit.
Yeah. They really did miss Daniel this episode because Daniel knew that there was only a 50% chance he was staying, and he still didn't use a Shot in the Dark. So they must have really convinced him that there was no way he was going home. And it's crazy because based off how I perceive it, I thought that Mike, Lydia, and Hai had the decision made up already. Like, I think that there was a lot of fluff added to the episode to make it seem like, oh, maybe she'll vote Chanel. I'm fairly certain that they were convinced from when he went swimming and then immediately sat out the challenge that he was going if they left.
And he also just kind of seemed like the tribe punching bag after a while, like even just like the way they were like. Himself. Well, he trust me. If there's anyone who's going to defend him, I will not be one of them. I think that I think that he was an interesting player, like not at all talking smack, but I definitely think that like he had a lot of work to do, especially every single tribal. So I mean, he did do it to himself, but he made himself into basically the tribe punching bag. So it was an easier piece to just be very swiftly removed,
Yeah. Ross, were you surprised at all, or did you think there was a chance Chanel could have gone? No. Okay.
I wasn't surprised. Like I'm pretty sure he was what the trimming the fat was. They're really
right.
I was ready to see the drug train get derailed, but
right, true. But like, don't you think okay? I think I'm very surprised that I feel like everyone I talked to today has like the opposite opinion of me. Like, I still feel like Chanel would have been the smarter person to get rid of. Here's why. Okay.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, because like even in tribal council, okay, Daniel was still voting with the majority, or with the group of three to be able to get out the person that they were telling him who to get out, and Chanel still went against the grain, even though they told her what they were going to do. It was a smart individual move, but that is going to cost her because now she's showing that she's playing an individual game and she's not with the tribe. Like she proved that in her own vote. She is toast unless she can find a way out of it during the merge.
I don't think she's in a bad spot at all. I think the rest of Green is screwed from it. I think she can flip and leave. I don't think
that's a good hot
take. She's definitely flipping. Yeah, I think
she's gonna flip.
It
just would have been smarter for them to keep Daniel than Chanel, and I'm like annoyed that they chose him.
What's really gonna annoy me is if she flips and starts to start working with Tori, because then I'm just
it's game over.
It's game over. I'll just go back to whatever I do on Wednesdays. But I think that, and it's funny because the big question coming out of it was, why did Chanel vote for Mike? And it's like, well, the answer is pretty simple. Just in case a shot in the dark is played, you can save yourself on a revote, hopefully. But I know that is probably going, like, if they weren't merging next episode or fake merging next episode, she'd be in a shit ton of trouble because I feel like Mike has a lot of pull, and I think he's getting more pull as the game progresses. Especially as he remains more likable, I think that people are going to want to play ball with him. And I think that
soccer, you mean?
Yeah. When they, God,
I'll see myself out. I'll see myself out. I'm canceled.
But it was. When we get to merge, I think that Mike is in a pretty good position, only because I feel like if Hai is deemed out as the leader, people will target him. I feel like Mike is going to be looked at as like a social person that, hey, let's see what we can do with him. I think that Lydia might be in trouble because she's going to be looked at as tight with Hai, and then Chanel, as we all I think agree on, is flipping. On another end, we know Tori's going to flip, or at least she's saying it. We assume that Roxroy will probably flip, but he's also shown to be extremely loyal. He's shown to be extremely loyal. So I think that if the other two people in his tribe just kind of say, hey, like, we still want to work with you, I think that could bring him back into a good spot.
And Romeo smoothed him over well enough that I think that he's going to stay loyal.
And what I hope happens is that Roxroy just goes to one of the other two tribes, says, hey, I'm not willing to vote out Romeo or Drea right now, but we have the numbers. We can go out and get Tori and send her home. That's like fantasy booking, but I have like a fantasy booking that I really want to happen. I need Tori gone now.
I think that it's going to be, it's definitely going to be sooner than later, I think, for sure.
So yes, going into this episode, going into the next episode, what are our thoughts? You know, are we anxious? Are we optimistic? How are we feeling?
Definitely not optimistic.
As long as Mike survives merge, that's all that matters.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, are we joining forces right now, Ross?
No, Mike is by far my favorite this season.
Yeah,
he has such grace.
He's America's sweetheart. Yeah, he's America's sweetheart.
I am so glad that you agree. He's also my winner pick, so I'm hoping that he makes it pretty far too.
Ross, winner pick.
Huh?
Yeah, who is Ross's winner pick?
I don't usually make winner picks at all, so I don't know if that's a hot take, but like I would choose Mike just because I want that to happen.
Okay, yeah, we can go with that. You want Mike to win. We'll go with you want Mike to win. Who do you think has 0% chance at winning?
Marianne.
Okay.
Why do you feel that way?
I'm sorry?
Why do you feel that way?
I just feel like, well, one thing I think people forget a lot is that the younger you are, the less chance you have of a jury giving you $1 million.
True.
So I think that, and then she also acts very young. So I think that is, I don't think they're going to, even if she plays a great game, I don't think she has any chance of them awarding her $1 million. And I don't think she's playing a great game. So I think it's going to be a combo that I think she's the least likely to win.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree.
But back to the initial question, thoughts on the potential or on the non-merge episode. 2 hours. We know that they're going to have some type of twist. We know that it's not actually going to be a merge. Do we think that this is just going to continue the steady, good pace that the season has been on, or do you think that it's going to potentially suck the air out of it? Do you think that it's going to start a downward spiral, which obviously I don't like being negative, but I really, really hope that it's not like that.
Yeah, I think that like it's already so uphill. Like, and I talked about this on the last podcast we were with. Shout out to Gia. Hey, Gia. And like that we are rooting for every single individual player. You know, I think they did a really great job at dispersing all the confessionals, really painting a reason for every single person to win. So we're engaged and we're rooting for people regardless of what happens, you know. But I also think that like we haven't really seen a lot of advantages be played yet, and I think that in itself is going to really cause like I live for a live tribal. I think that that's really we're gonna see so many of those, especially with so many things like flying around like crazy. And we did trim the fat, just the people that we felt that like didn't really significantly contribute to the plot of Survivor. So I think that it's going to be pretty good.
I feel like Daniel was contributing like a lot of mess.
But it's the merge mess.
but
like you know what I mean, like the really,
character.
yeah, you know what I mean.
Pre-merge character.
Daniel was the JD of this season. He was fun for
True.
a bit, but like it was his time.
So true.
I think. Well, okay. So how many people will not have a vote right now? Like, who is there anyone? Omar doesn't have a vote. Is he the only person that doesn't have a vote right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
And then there are 3 people with extra votes.
Marianne has an extra vote.
Drea
has an extra vote.
I think that might be it.
That might.
Then technically, if the amulet advantage is used between Drea and Lindsay, then that also could count as an extra vote, but that's very unlikely.
Yeah, I was just ready to ask Ross. I know you said earlier you think that they're not going to. You think they're going to turn on probably Lindsay. Do you think there's any chance that the 3 of them somehow end up working together, short term or long term?
I don't see it because I don't think it's in your best interest to. Mm-hmm. I think it's not in your best interest to work together. I think it's in your best. Maybe with one of them, like maybe 2 of them get together, but I don't think it's in any of them. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it could if they thought that it was that close of a vote, that they were like extremely confident they were going to be divided pretty much 50-50 and they needed just that extra piece of security. But it wouldn't make sense if 3 other people had that individual advantage where they could just use it. You know what I mean? I don't think that that's going to happen.
I don't see there being any significant enough target yet for all 3 of them to think it's worth using the advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said at the beginning of the episode, I think that because production has basically buried the fact that the amulet is even a thing anymore, like we don't hear about it anymore, I think that when it eventually comes back out, it's going to be in an episode that is talked about like episode 3 was.
Absolutely.
Was it episode 3 was the Crazy Tribal?
It was the wildest thing I've ever seen on television. It was the coolest thing ever.
Let's see what the recency bias does to that. But I think that whenever those amulets start coming out, I think that we will get another episode like that. I know that everything's been good to great so far, but I think it's going to be one of those top tier episodes if they do it the right way, if they frame it the right way. And they've done a pretty good job at doing that this season. I think that production is listening to a lot of the gripes that people had with 41 and trying to make these adjustments. And like I said, we're going to find out tomorrow if they actually listened, because that was one of the big things was people hated how they did the hourglass and the hourglass itself, but they're not going to get rid of that because they already did it. So the next best thing to do would be how they frame it. And if they frame it with, let's just get this over and done with in one episode, I think people will kind of say, okay, yeah, it's a dumb twist, but at least we don't have to wait a week to watch someone break a glass that we all knew they were going to break.
Yeah. I just hope that it just doesn't come back. Like I know that it's
got really grim, kind of. It's like Survivor grim.
Yeah, I need to be dramatic about it because it's
I mean, I definitely
the worst thing that's ever happened next to like Edge of Extinction. I hope that production. I could go on a whole spiel, but I really, really. I hated it. But like, I really, really do hope that production did listen, or at least finds a way to edit it or spin it in a way where it's not so predictable. So we'll see on Wednesday. I'm excited for 2 whole hours of me live tweeting the whole show. It's gonna be great.
But as we head out, any final thoughts on the season and or this episode, next episode, Ross?
One quick thing I'd like to ask is, do you guys think Mike made the right decision in saying his phrase?
Yeah, I think they needed that extra security right before that tribal. And I know that it wasn't completely necessary, but everyone already knows about the immunity idols pretty much.
Yeah,
I mean, his
everyone except for Tori and Roxroy know about all the idols now.
Can you imagine how confused they're going to be? Like, I hope they feature that, like the utter confusion. But yeah, I think that he was right to do it. There's no reason for him to not have an active vote ready to go. So
yeah, I'm the same way. I think that, yes, I know that it was going to activate probably this upcoming episode, but there's just too many things about to, especially with this perception of merge hanging over your head.
Yeah.
The worst thing that could happen is you get voted out when you had the chance at activating your idol and totally blowing up your game. Yes, you're still in a weird spot now because now everyone in the game knows you have an idol. And someone actually pointed out on Twitter, they were like, why don't they give the idol to somebody else on the tribe and have them say the phrase so that everyone thinks that one person has and it turns out the other one doesn't.
Oh, that would have been smart.
Um,
You have to trust that person with your life and know they'd give it back, but that would be really smart.
But that's for another time. I think that that is something that if they continue to do these beware advantages, that is something that we will eventually see in seasons later. But yeah, other than that, I've got nothing else. I also have no voice left, which I apologize.
Went too hard on Survivor drama. Heyo,
coaching.
Okay.
But Ross, thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you.
We will have
thanks, Ross.
I guess when we do Edge of Extinction at this point.
We will not do Edge of Extinction.
We will be doing Edge of Extinction.
Oh my god! Please.
I would love to get your opinions on it. I'm doing a rewatch of that right now, actually.
Don't do it. You're dead to me.
That's pretty fun. Thank you all for tuning in, as always. And make sure to tune in sometime this week and or next for our next episode. We've been very spacey with how we've done these just because
it's a mystery.
Life happens. But yeah, until then, we will see y'all on the other side.